All right. Uh, Victor,
Yeah.
without the knowledge of the rest of your companions, as you are setting out, what time of day are you going to leave to go up to the pools? I'll leave that up to you guys. What time you want to try to arrive?
Thought we were going immediately.
If you're
Yeah.
going right
No,
now,
it's middle of the night. That would be weird.
I mean, you can. It's up to you.
Like, why would it be weird?
Well, if we're gonna go like talk to them and see what's going on, it's better if we do it like during breakfast, probably.
Why is it weird? We're travelers. We saw a camp.
Let's just take a quick vote. Who wants to go right now?
What time is it right now?
Middle of the night.
I mean,
Evie has no real strong preference.
I want to go right now.
Edmont would prefer to go right now, yeah.
All right, well, that's 3 for right now, so we're going in the night. Victor.
Yeah.
Before setting out, very, very briefly, Abela whispers words into your ear. She tells you to bring her the death card from one of the Okari's Taraka decks.
Victor nods and says he will do his best.
And she plants a very soft kiss on your face just before you head out. So you're leaving Orson behind with Vardo?
Yeah.
All right, then the 5 of you make your ways forward.
Which one is Abuela? Is that the singing one or the wants to murder everyone one?
Bela's the singer.
Abela is the singer, yes.
She's the one that lost the baby.
And let's make no mistake, she very much wants to murder everyone. She
Right,
was
but-
not against that plan.
Right. No, I know, but she wasn't vocal about it.
And as you leave, Yonora is of the opinion that you're going up there to basically gain intel for them. She's convinced that when you return, you will either help her ambush the camp or not get in her way as she does it herself. All right. Let me get my... Well, let's go with bright red. What do you think?
It's like a plan.
Can I get a thicker line? Is there a way to do a thicker line? I actually don't know the answer to this question. Someday I should learn how to use Tabletop Simulator.
Are these 5-foot squares?
Oh my god, how did you get that big thick line?
Holy shit, that's really thick.
You hit plus when you're drawing. The plus.
Oh. Oh my god, Treble, you're a genius.
Yeah, I
I
know.
love it.
Oh yeah, no, you can see how big it is when you when just hovering the that could just be like plop.
That's a thick boy, McDohl.
A thick dollop.
Did you say
Oh,
dollop in my
green.
presence?
I did.
All right. So climbing up over some of these crags, you can feel the heat as there is a sulfurous spring bubbling up through the area. So the smell is thick and heavy in the air, and it's not pleasant. This red line shows the perimeter of this, essentially this makeshift fence, lashed together with bones. Somewhere in the center, you can see the flicker and, more pointedly, the smoke of a campfire rising up. And you can hear talking, just mild chit-chat, muffled laughter, somewhere on the inside of the perimeter as you approach. So why don't you guys show me where you're coming in at? These are 5-foot squares.
I guess any direction is as good as another.
Are we
Okay.
approaching
Yeah,
stealthily,
obvious.
or are we going straight up?
Like, well,
Walk
we're
right
here
to the
to,
front.
We
we're here
want to
to,
talk to them, right?
yeah, we want to talk to them. So
Okay, then.
May as well announce ourselves.
Is there like an obvious front of the game?
So as you guys approach, this is when Ekon is going to cast his
Yeah.
enhanced
before
abilities.
before we're in earshot, I will cast those 2 spells.
So you are enhancing everybody's ability on charisma, and then you are
And
giving
doing
yourself
myself training and deception.
training and deception. Got it. And that both of those last for 1 hour, and they
One of
don't.
them requires concentration. Yep.
Okay. Orson and Yonora would have told you before leaving that there wasn't a gate at any point. There wasn't a natural opening anywhere in this fence. And you can see as the fence snakes in between some of these crags, it follows the natural barrier and contour of the area. It's not more than maybe 4 feet high at its highest point, and the height varies along with the elevation of the land.
So we can see right over.
Not standing level, but it's trivial to find a place where you can climb up like onto a crag and then get on your tippy toes, or you could just climb the fence itself. Probably lots
The
of
fence is
handholds.
only 4 feet high.
On average, there are places it's a little higher, there are places it's a little lower. Notably, though, there doesn't seem to be anything holding the fence together.
is it magical? It's very magical, isn't
It's very magical.
It's absolutely magical.
Well, it must
Sentries
be.
anywhere?
I assume this didn't. I mean, they must have constructed this on the fly. They could only do something this big magically, because I assume this was not here before they got here.
What is Edmond's question?
Are there any sentries about?
As you mean
Anybody-
anybody outside of the perimeter? Not that you could tell as you approach.
Okay.
Well,
it? Well, I think we should just like look into the place first and see what we can see.
why don't we say hello as we're walking up, so we don't just act like a bunch of peeping toms?
So who's approaching and what are they doing as they approach?
Victor, you're the one who's supposedly friends of the Vistani. That
Yeah, letting Victor
Yeah.
talk. How could that go wrong?
Yeah, I guess Victor will walk up with whoever else talking to whoever is walking up.
Show me where you're walking up to.
I feel like over here looks like a good spot.
not letting you go solo though. But
Okay.
That's a probably good call. We'll come up like here-ish.
Victor.
I can't tell what elevation are. These rocks all roughly the same elevation?
There's some variance to it. Like when you're climbing in between crags, it can get a little dicey.
Okay.
Like, we're all approaching together, right?
Victor,
Roughly speaking, yeah. Yeah.
as you approach the fence, give me a perception check.
Get some fresh new dice that aren't going to roll a 1.
Well, you rolled a 2 that one time.
Yay, reliable talent. That's going to be if a 20 is not good enough, then it'll be a 25.
Okay. So predominantly what you hear more than anything is the crackling of the fire and the bubbling of the pool just on the other side of the fence. You could feel the heat from here. You've got liquid seeping in through the cracks in between the two crags where this bone fence rises up out of. However, if you really pay attention, you can hear the voices on the other side of the pool, near to the fire. Listening for a moment, you were told there were 5 people. That was Yunoru's report. So you're trying to count out 5 voices. You're not sure if you actually get the correct number. However, you do become convinced that at least one of the voices you're hearing is that of a child.
Oh. That could be very important.
Hello? Victor will call out, hello?
And immediately the voices die away. You hear footfalls coming in your direction. And eventually, a man appears on the other side of the wall, skipping across the rocks, coming up to the fence. Do we have any light source at the moment, or are we just relying on moonlight?
Evie has dark vision, if that helps.
I mean, pretty much everyone except, yeah, almost all of us have dark vision up right
Okay.
now.
Seeing through the fence is not difficult because there are wide gaps in the bones of several inches in places. So if you get close to the fence, you can peer through it and get a pretty good look. The man skipping over, Yanoru had described one of them as being a dandy and a fop. And this has to be the guy. We're talking wide-brimmed, plumed hat. We're talking like long, pomade, curled-up mustache, and piercing sharp goatee off the bottom of his pale face. Great orange locks and curls falling down the side of his head. Wearing fluted pantaloons, curly-toed shoes, he comes skipping across, flourishing his cloak, as though to make a great show of showing you the rapier that hangs at his side, and the épée that hangs at the other. And he lands, and in heavily accented Darkanese, he calls out, "What ho, intruders! Identify yourselves!"
You didn't say codpiece, but I'm just imagining this man definitely wears a codpiece.
I mean, who doesn't?
Victor will introduce himself with a name that Vastani know him by, and then he'll introduce the Veritas party.
How's Veritas, you say? He calls back. Again, his Darkanese is very, very bad. And when he calls back, he asks whether Veritas was the name that Koyana had mentioned. And then you hear Koyana calling back, a familiar voice. And after a few moments, she joins the dandy up at the fence. And you can see her face peering through. Is that Vincent Veritas?
Koyana, how are you?
She seems surprised but delighted to see you.
Of all the people to meet in all the dark places, you are not the one I would have expected.
So what are you doing out here? What's the story?
Weird.
What do you tell them?
We're looking for a hiding gloss.
Well, I think we just be truthful. Like, we're out here investigating cultist activity, fire cultists. That's not false.
Yeah, I'll ask if they've seen any.
We're here trying to get to hiding gloss, looking for fire cultists, and they came and they burned the town, and it's a good thing that you were able to find a caravan to escape, so you didn't have to suffer through it.
The name Heidenglass does not mean anything to her. But yeah, she confirms that she's kind of been meandering between various Vardos and has done for the past couple of years. She tells you that if you have coin, they have a fire and some amount of provisions, and of course no shortage of good tales.
Absolutely. Victor expresses interest and asks if he can join them.
The fop does something with his hands, interacting with the magic, keeping the bones in place. He parts his arms apart as one would push apart a veil of curtains. And as he does, the bones subside and an entrance becomes available. That's a big entrance. It's not what I was expecting was going to happen.
The guy doesn't know his own power.
I'll tell you.
I look at Koyana. Does she still have my dagger?
Give me a perception check.
Absolutely. I'm checking my perception. This is my first time actually having to look at my sheet this game. I got a 23.
23? It takes you a moment because you have to peer under her cloak to where she wears a dagger next to her body, and you see the sheath where the dagger would rest, but she does not, in fact, have it, or at least she's not wearing it at the moment.
Interesting. I won't say anything or draw attention to it at the time.
The man introduces himself as Nathan Antoine, and he flourishes his hat and bows very lowly, as a dandy might.
Interesting device, magical device you have there. Is it basically Gene's gonna ask him? Is it like what kind of magic power is it? Is it artificer? Is it divine? Is it nature magic?
He begs your forgiveness, but he does not know the Darkany's word for how to describe his art.
What language does he speak? Not naturally.
Language you've never heard of before.
Where is he from, I guess would be the problem.
Well, Genie will tell him, hold on 1 second, and then she'll use a spell slot to cast Comprehend Language. All right, tell me in your native tongue. Now I understand.
And it's a word that you've never heard before. A word for which there is no definition.
So it's nonsense. He's just saying nonsense.
It's shaped like itself.
It's magic.
Definitely not nonsense. Because
It's perfect.
It's a proper
Perfectly
noun that
amulet
the
magic.
spell can't handle.
But you are invited in. And Koyana makes her way back to the camp over here.
Victor will comment the dandy on his weapons as he walks by.
So they have a fire pit going. And they have a tiny ox cart of their own. And you can see where they have makeshift boards and ramps across the various parts of the crags where they would have had to drive this cart. Over here, I'm going to put these down just in case it becomes relevant. The two oxen are curled up and sleeping. At the fire is a Vistana gentleman and his lady wife. And two young children, perhaps 7 or 8 years old. Almost certainly the natural children of the couple here. And they greet you warmly as you all approach. Introductions are made around. The couple's names are Boba and Florica. Their children, Alifair and Tematea. The family matriarch Brisha sleeps in the wagon.
Florica is the one we gotta watch out for?
Florica is the one that was accused of murdering Abela's infant son.
Mm-hmm.
Koyana gives some brief introductions to House Veritas. And you can see that some mention of your friendship with her has already been noted amongst this group. You treated her well for a long time, and as such, they are more trusting than Vistani might otherwise be at your approach.
I guess Victor will just start talking to them, trying to find out, what they're doing. I guess ask if they've seen any cultists. Basically, try to figure out who they are. Do they openly admit to being blood mages? How has Koyana been doing on her travels?
Now, that was a bunch of questions at once. Which one do you want to go with first? So I heard you're a blood magus, huh?
So the first thing after introductions, I guess Victor would ask to see their wares.
Well, they don't have any at the moment. The wagon is empty except for the sleeping matriarch. They've come here because the sulfurous material at these particular springs have magical qualities that can be put into potions and poultices.
Interesting.
By trade, Florica and her husband are artists. And in fact, you can see the side of their wagon is very vividly painted in a variety of colors. And you can see where various scenes have been painted over again and again and again.
Victor glances to Edmont and then glances at the court.
And the conversation immediately turns to what you all are doing out here. Why are you so far away from Silverbow?
I mean, again, I think we should just keep it as close to the truth as possible. There's a group of fire cultists. They set a phoenix to our town, and we're going to take care of them. You don't set a phoenix. You don't attack us with a phoenix and get away with it.
What do you tell them a phoenix is? This is not a word that exists in the Vistani tongue.
Bird of fire.
Giant firebird, yeah.
It's a elemental spirit aligned to the will of air. Takes the form of a bird of flame and light.
Are phoenixes symbols of air?
If it's aligned to air, why was it attacking our village? Was Kristen right? Are you actually?
Are you asking this in Aetherine or in Darkanese or what?
Now, this is just not something I remember coming up before. I don't remember phoenixes existing in Aetherine mythology.
This would be a telepathic link, which this is ass.
Remember,
I mean,
he failed he's suspicious of you now.
I mean, are you going to ask if firewalls and walls of fire are aligned to air?
I'm just saying, we don't
Depends on the
necessarily
fireball.
say a giant firebird that burned our town down was aligned with our god. It's going to give a bad impression.
Anyway,
Regardless, Florica in particular seems very charmed by the description of a bird made of fire. Destructive, but also beautiful, no?
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
it looked kind of like a chicken made of fire. It's a very large chicken.
My cousin here, Edmont, could probably draw you a picture if you're interested.
Their
Perhaps
eyes
a bit of
turn to
art exchange
Edmont.
for food.
I'm sorry, say what again? What'd you say, Brickroad?
The victor is volunteering your services.
In exchange for food.
Paint. He wants you to paint the phoenix.
I know, I get that, and I'm just like, come on, Victor, why are you putting me on the spot like this?
They have food if you have coin. While they're sure that Edmont's artwork is beautiful. Coin spends.
Victor will trade him a couple silver for some food.
Okay.
Edmont will draw a sketch of such a beastie.
And they carve you off a strip of jerky, hunk of cheese for each of you. In exchange. What's next?
So what are they doing out here?
Collecting these sulfurous materials. Give me an Arcana check.
Only Victor?
I'll let anybody do this if you're trained at Arcana.
I've got a plus a lot. Victor's got reliable talent, but I got a plus 10.
Plus a
I
lot.
have a minimum 10 and then a plus 5, so. Plus my sonic dice.
Is this how anyone can do it? We can all do it independently?
I think Jeannie called dibs on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm let Jenny do it.
Okay. That's a 27.
So they mentioned that the sulfurous materials here have uses in potions and poultices. Looking at their trade, though, you'd wonder if they don't have some method of making magical paints. And if so, what uses they might be bent to.
I guess Jeannie, you know what? Jeannie's kind of at the done stage of her life. I think. So she's just going to channel her inner Victor and ask, it's like, do you use the sulfurs to make magical paints?
Evie's over here kind of examining water.
The water-
Ears prick up at that.
The water stinks, to put it bluntly. It's
Well,
not
Yeah, it's sulfur.
not pleasant at all. But other than that, it's a hot spring. Like you probably wouldn't want to fall in.
Well, some people bathe in this stuff, but I assume this might be too hot.
I mean, you get used to anything if you soak
Well,
long enough.
And then you die.
I don't want my skin to boil off.
And then you die.
Jeannie,
Yeah.
Florica's non-answer is that even when not imbued with magic, weaving pictures together with paints nonetheless is an art of magic in itself.
Here, here.
Jeannie looks at Edmont and says, it just shakes her head. She's a little dismissive of that.
He's
So-
a scientist.
You can kind of confirm then that either Yonoro miscounted earlier or she withheld the information that there were children in this camp. Because there are indeed
Right.
7 people here total, assuming the matriarch is asleep in the wagon.
Right. So, Koyana, like, what does Koyana have to say what she's been doing the last few years? Besides just bumming around.
Well, remember
Anything
her
notable?
her family was killed by the Keltostrat.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
she's kind of drifted from Vardo to Vardo, traveling around, and at this particular moment, she's falling in with the Okaris for the time being.
So she doesn't seem to have any like long-standing relationship with them. She's just happens to be here.
And she has a long-standing relationship in the fact that they're both of the Vistani. They have-
Yeah.
Like,
Well, as we've known, or as we've noticed, not all clans of the Vistani get along with their clans.
You'd have to ask her to know the answer to that.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna go there right now.
Okay.
Jeannie will ask her. Jeannie doesn't care right now.
What does
She
Jeannie?
had all of her hopes and dreams dashed.
What does Jeannie ask?
She'll ask her, so, you've been traveling with these people. What is your opinion of them? They seem, you seem like a very good judge of character. And we know you pretty well.
A really rude way of putting that question, Gene.
I mean, you can see Boba and Florica did not like the way that question was posed.
Evie didn't either.
just kind of shakes his
They don't respond with anything more than just a cool look on their faces for a moment. Koyana maintains her composure, and she tells you that they have been very welcoming. They have been welcoming and generous are the terms that she uses. She's been traveling with them since the beginning of summer, and she's looking forward to learning more about the artistry of how paints are made and used.
Please excuse my cousin. Sometimes she speaks without thinking.
Boba, the man,
That's a pot calling a kettle black.
locks eyes with Jeannie for a moment. Says, I too, from time to time, have been known to forget my manners after a long time spent on the road. All is forgiven.
She does apologize. She says, I'm sorry. I've had a rough couple of days. I do
Very
apologize.
gracious of you.
I heard the worst song of my life.
Yeah.
So Victor is going to, I guess, ask if they want to swap some stories.
Always, of course.
So Victor will start, and he will tell them about some of the joyful adventures they've had establishing additional territories.
But you're going to lie to them.
Well, I'm trying to think. We so off the record for a second. So with the 3 villages, one of them had the blood mage. What do the other 2 have? One of them was Zaquiel.
One of them didn't have anything. You could tell them we went into a man's butt.
No, I don't prefer you don't tell them that story.
Victor will open with how they get into a man's
Evie's-
butt recently.
Evie's like, look, when you put our version of there and back again together, let's just leave that part out. Like, nobody needs
Yeah.
to know. Well,
No, Victor is going to open with a tale about a man that was cursed, and we had to go inside him and fight the curse, and all sorts of terrors were inside.
His
Boba,
butt was haunted.
after he hears this story for a moment, he interjects. And he says that he always loves the trading of tales, but it's much more to his preference to play the tales out like a game. Do you want to play a game?
How do you play it?
You're not the first to ask that.
He tells Victor, or anybody who wants to interject on the tale, to pick one of your adventures. Tell him 2 true things and 1 untrue thing about the adventure. And then the game is that he and Florica have to guess which is not true.
Ooh, I'll do it. Can I do it?
This game.
Can I please do it for the...
You can start.
Okay. So for the story that Victor was telling,
Mm-hmm.
two truths and a falsehood, right?
Right.
Okay. The inside of his body. We traveled his body in a barrel. We entered through his butt, and the fluids inside were blue.
Evie, here's the problem. Once one Vistana group knows that y'all went into somebody's butt, like in a month, they're all going to know. There's going to be songs and stories, like...
I mean, Evie has... The trait has left the station on this family being able to keep their mouth shut.
Jeannie, give me a charisma performance check. I believe you have some kind of bonus to this because Ekon put magic on your face.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my character sheet. Performance. I think it's a -2. Okay. But I do have advantage.
Koyana recuses herself from playing the game because she claims that she knows House Veritas far too well.
That is a... We'll go ahead and use my Flash of Genius on that, so that's an 18.
Okay. Florica and Boba whispered amongst themselves for a moment. On the other side of the fire, their young children are giggling at the situation. Florica and Boba decide that the untrue thing is that you traveled through a man's insides in a barrel. So they have guessed incorrectly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We called it the Brown Note. It was a barrel. It was made by... And she's going to basically describe the barrel, like the bubble around it, and then... because this is like one of the few things that brings Jeannie joy, which is like magical devices of artifice. Like, so she genuinely, like, you know, was attached to the Brown Note in the short time.
Meanwhile, Evie's over here just sullenly burying her face in her hands as she describes how we sailed through a man's butt in a barrel.
Yeah, his butt was haunted, you guys. It was the craziest thing. There was a woman in there.
So that's 1 point for House Veritas. Boba tells the next story. He tells you that they had heard that this sulfurous spring here was roiling in such a pristine way as to be rich with the minerals that they craved. And so they set out at once to find this place. Along the path, he says, they earned, meaning the family earned, 100 gold from a single choice Taraka reading. He claims that they crossed a field with carrots larger than a man's foot, and they had chance to pass on the road the wheelhouse of Azalin Rex. Which of these things is not true?
I guess we'll get together and whisper.
So the 5 of you can confer amongst yourselves, but you have to give one answer as a group.
Did we get any? Can we make an insight check?
No roll required. This is
no
just
roll required. Yes.
I think the 100 gold for the Taraka reading's the false one.
Guess it depends who it was to. I doubt the only person who would pay that much would be Aslan, and I doubt Aslan would give a shit.
Maybe they get in the reading.
Some wealthy merchants. I kind of find these carrots suspicious. I don't know.
I think they are.
Ekon's always suspicious of the carrots, you guys.
I mean, the carrots are potentially suspicious.
Okay, so what were the three things? There was the Taraka reading for 100 gold. There was passing Aslan Rex's carriage. And the third one was...
Carrots
The
as
winged carrots.
big as a man's foot.
Oh.
I wasn't joking.
Ekon wants to go with these carrots.
Yeah.
If they passed Aslan Rex's wagon, would they still be alive?
I mean, that
Why
is a
not?
question. He does hate the stunny.
I think it's very unlikely that he would simply just pass a carriage.
It
because
just
of his
it just
stunning.
seems like such an obvious lie, though, that it almost has to be true.
Wait, how did we originally get to our part of Darkon?
You were given instructions at Castle Avernus of what road to follow.
Okay.
And then Aslan, you guys probably didn't know this at the time, but Aslan used his mist powers to direct you on the right path. It was in his interest that you got there safely. So what is House Veritas's answer? Which of those three things is not true?
You really want to go with carrots? I'm pretty sure it's not the carrots, but I'm willing to go with it.
I think the reasoning behind the carriage is sound, actually. Like, we've heard that Aslan does not like the presence of things, but he also seems to ignore everyone around him that's not immediately useful. So
And that's true.
I'm gonna go with I say my vote's carrots.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess we're gonna go with carrots.
The carrots are BS, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Boba tells you that while they had heard very credible news that Aslan was traveling, they did not, in fact, pass his wheelhouse nor lay eyes on it. And at that, Florica reveals from under her skirts a carrot as big as a man's foot.
Victor gasps audibly.
That's
This is what happens when you don't listen to Evie, guys.
It is now 1-1. Who wants to take the next round?
Victor can take the next round, unless somebody else really wants to.
Nah.
How many rounds? How many rounds does this game go to?
You'll play to 3. First to 3 wins.
What
Okay.
is what's a good story then? Like what else
So
did we do?
okay, so here's the reason Victor started doing this, right? The whole notion is we want to swap tails because Victor is going to tell the story about the blood mage in the basement and see if that gets any sort of reaction out of them.
Okay.
Okay, go for it.
That's like where we're going with this.
So you want to tell 2 true things about that story and 1 false thing. I mean, I guess you could break the rules of the game and see where that gets you up. But Victor's also sitting with his back to a sulfurous hot spring.
Yeah. We get closer to tell the story.
So 2 true things and 1 false things about the blood mage in Aelhurst.
So in this story, 2 true things and 1 false thing. As Quiana may have told you, we were given leave to establish a town. And as part of this establishment, we also went to establish some outposts. One of these outposts we established was a village called Aelhurst. And Victor will look to see if there's any response to that.
They've heard of the town, but they probably haven't traveled there recently.
When we went to Aelhurst for the first time, it was, dare I say, quite the adventure. First off, we were going there because we decided it would be a good idea for our cousin to take over the brewing operations.
So that's a true thing?
That's a true thing.
Okay.
When we got there, we found that things were not all right. There was mischief in the village, and people were scared. There were stories going around. We did some investigating, and we found that one of the villagers was actually a blood mage.
And that's a true thing?
That's a true thing.
Okay.
Now, we tried to talk with him, and at first we were okay. You know, blood magic is not unlike a lot of other types of magic. And if it was making the village a better place, well, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. But the more we got to investigate, we found that well, it wasn't quite as positive as we hoped. He was actually going out of the way to kidnap young girls, virgins, small children, and sacrifice them. And well, we couldn't have that going on.
And that's a false thing?
That would be the false thing, as far as we know.
Give me a charisma performance check.
I'm guessing you can't flash a genius me on it.
No, she can't.
Okay, well, at advantage, that's going to be
Advantage from Ekon's spell, yes?
yes.
Yeah.
Plus 5. That's going to be a 30.
30?
That's a 30.
A riveting story.
They confer for a moment. The children seem riveted by the tale. I'll let anybody else that's not Victor, one of you, make me an insight check.
I'll do it. My
Evie.
insight's real good.
Since Victor had stated his true purpose for this particular story, let's see what Evie can see.
My insight is plus 12. Can anybody beat that? I don't think so.
No.
12 is the biggest number ever.
It's a pretty big number.
That's pretty big.
It's one of my highest numbers. Ooh, that's going to be a 31.
Oh, I thought 12 was the biggest number. I stand corrected.
She just does she has a Sherlock moment where everything slows down and she can see the lines.
Evie,
Uh-huh.
back at Silverbow, if you were to tell a story about blood magic and sacrificing virgins to a group of children, they would be afraid.
Uh-huh.
These children are interested.
Mm-hmm.
And they almost seem familiar with having heard this kind of thing before.
Mm-hmm.
Victor.
Yeah.
They tell you that the untrue part of your tale is that there was, in fact, somebody in the village practicing blood magic. They think that's the false part.
I've got
Victor
the third
will
story.
grin, give a laugh, and say, no, that is actually true. The false part, what was he actually sacrificing?
He wanted to sacrifice Lugrin.
Yeah.
The true part was actually that he wanted to sacrifice my cousin.
The blood of nobility was supposed to make the wine, the grapes ripen younger.
Yeah, so Victor will relay that. If you're going to sacrifice my cousin because noble blood make grapes ripe. I don't know if that's actually how it works, but that's what this man believed.
Okay. The score is now Veritas 2. Okari 1.
I've got the third story, just so you guys know.
Okay.
Okay, it's their turn.
I know, just saying.
Florica tells the next story. This story happened several years ago now. They were traveling with their more extended family through the lands of Lord Randis,
Ooh.
known then as the Squelcher Lord by the Impolite. They were collecting money and provisions so that Boba and Florica could strike off on their own. Their children were much younger, and they heard a tale about Lord Randis's death by a man who had been there, of Vistana, who had snuck his way, deceived his way into the reception. And this was his report. First, he reported that men and women of a noble house not then known to him were present, but not at Brandis's invitation. That's the first thing. Second, he reported that the story the peasantry told the following days were that these people, the survivors of the massacre, had been the ones to cause it. That's the second thing. The third thing is that there was yet another outsider there, known to no one at all but the Vistana alone. That's the third thing. So there were 5 visitors from an unknown noble house. These visitors were the ones who caused the massacre, and the Vistana saw another visitor there, unknown to anyone but them alone.
I think all 3 of those things are probably true.
No,
We didn't
the
cause
first
the
was
massacre. Yeah.
Yes, we
Oh,
did.
yeah.
6.
Did we really not cause a massacre? I don't remember.
There was the 6th member of our family.
Yeah.
Orson was
Well,
there.
there was another outsider there, but we knew about her.
Yeah. Which
So-
would mean that's not true either.
Well, it could mean there was someone else there.
This is them fishing for information
Yeah.
about what happened.
I mean, we did it to them. All is fair.
Yeah.
We could always say that we don't think nobles were actually there.
I guess I'm gonna go with my vote's the first one. I'm gonna go with Simon McDohl on this.
That
Yeah.
five nobles were there that had not been invited.
Yeah, because Orson was with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They tell you that the untrue thing, the untrue part of that story, is that the nobles caused the massacre. In fact, it was Lord Randis himself who wove the magic that killed everyone in that room.
Scandalous.
Now it is 2-2. McDohl, everything hinges on your story. It all comes down to this.
And your rolls.
Story that we story of the time that we traveled on a train of the dead.
Okay.
We had 3 men and a hound for companions on this adventure.
They're women.
So that was false.
Okay, I understand.
Evie ruined the game. Like, up.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Thanks, Evie. Thanks, Evie. You ruined it all.
Wasn't saying that in character.
So that's the falsehood.
My cousin here, Jeannie, took a copious supply of alcohol for a prize.
That was true.
One of these companions was struck by the giant metal monstrosity itself, and he lived.
That's also true.
Yeah, that's a gray area right there.
Yeah, because she died, but we brought her back to life.
That counts as surviving.
It's a wash.
So, what am I rolling?
Charisma performance.
At advantage.
At advantage.
You can do it. I believe in you.
I don't believe in me.
Pretty good.
14.
Sorry, 14?
14.
They confer for a moment. And Boba responds, says, well, believe it or not, we have seen this train of which you speak, and the thought of anyone being struck by it and living strains credulity. I believe that is the falsehood. The man died.
No, she did not. Not only her, but her 2 companions and their hound were all women.
I also got hit by the train and did not die.
Did you?
Yep.
She sure did.
That still might be one of my favorite D&D moments ever, when you guys were so confident I was going to let you suplex the train.
Just such a betrayal.
That was, yeah. No, you can't suplex this tree. What's wrong with you?
Boba,
Just right there on the character sheet.
Yep.
Boba and Florica congratulate you on winning the game.
If it helps, she did lose her leg.
Oh, you know,
They
she
get
was...
to tell the story too. They only told Sue stories.
Well, yeah, you guys got to 3. You guys have got
Fair
3
enough.
points. What they offer you as a prize for having won the game is to offer you a real truth, a true truth, something that you could not have known before you came here. They will give this to you freely.
Yes, please.
Boba spreads his elbows apart, pushing his cloak apart. You can see the wicked blades he wears at either side, glinting in the moonlight. This is the man that was described to you as a murderer and an assassin. He says, the truth is, we know that you traveled here with the triplets, and we know that you mean to kill us.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Victor will stay where he's at.
Koyana,
Grasses his pipe.
for her part, is taken aback with shock. They're looking back and forth, and she sees the situation suddenly becomes much more tense than it was a moment ago.
Evie says, honestly, we did not come here to kill anyone.
Is what the triplets true? Is what the triplets say about you true? And I'll nod to Florida.
Florica speaks something to the children across the fire in the Vistani tongue. And the two children are... First of all, they're leaving Victor's threat range. I guess we'll start with that. Victor, if you ever wanted to murder a child in cold blood...
Not chaotic evil yet.
Otherwise, they're going to... At their mother's behest, they clamber up into the back of the wagon. Florica answers. The question was, is what we heard about you true? And she says, I suppose that depends on what you heard.
You kidnapped her baby and used it for a blood sacrifice.
She straightens her back. She says, what you heard is a partial truth. I used the infant's blood. Yes.
Would you share the whole truth then? As my cousin said, we did not come here to kill you.
She tells you that there is great magic, as well as you well learned in your story in Aelhurst, in the blood of certain types, the blood of an innocent child, an innocent person, a person who has not yet known sin or trauma, is very potent for certain purposes. It is, of course, an abomination to harvest this material. You cannot do it without blackening the very depths of your soul. It is one of the most grievous sins a person can commit. However, if a child were to die through mishap, illness, war, it is a greater sin to have the knowledge to put its blood to use and not do so. And then she stops to gauge the reaction to what she just said.
Victor eyes her and says quite flatly, he can understand that. One of the tenets of my cousin's religion is that knowledge should not go to waste.
Of your
That's
cousin's
not knowledge.
religion.
However,
Evie says, what you are saying is this child was already dead.
Boba tells you that his wife, his lady wife, is a healer. That she has healed many children with many afflictions and injuries over the years, and sometimes the children do in fact die. In the case of Abela's young son, he had taken a chill. It was the middle of the winter Yarna. He had taken a chill. His wife did what she could, but it wasn't enough, and he was claimed. As payment for her practice, Florica requires the bodies if the child dies. For this exact reason, because then the blood can be harvested and put to use. It was not through her maliciousness, only through the coldness of nature that the child died.
you realize I must ask, but how do we know that you did all you could to save the child?
Florica tells you that you don't. You cannot know this.
I have Zone of Truth. I can know it.
She looks back. And I don't know what the Vistani word for Zone of Truth is, but it's not pleasant to the ear. She tells you that this would demonstrate a lack of faith, and it would end their friendship with you. As she mentions this friendship that would potentially end if you were to cast Zone of Truth against her wishes, you see her husband's hands brushing against the inside of his blades.
Victor just glances at the husband and shakes his head a little bit hesitant and don't even try it. The issue, I suppose, is that... What was her name? Yanora?
There was Yanora and Abela. Yanora is the huntress, Abela is the songstress.
Yanora and Abela are very upset over the situation, as I'm sure you can imagine. I'm only trying to think of a way that might, I don't know, help them understand. Obviously, when it happened, it was difficult and they didn't want to believe it, that their child of all children could have just died like that. Not my child, right? But surely there must be a way to, I don't know, make it clear what actually happened.
Florica tells you that, unfortunately, the triplets have allowed their grief to poison them forever against her family. That there is nothing that can be done to bridge this gap.
How's Koyana reacting to this conversation?
Looking back and forth very nervously, because it's very clear that she knows what you all are capable of, but she also knows what they are capable of.
What's the dandy doing?
Standing off to the side, with his hands crossed, he looks very casual standing there, but you don't have... You're very sure that he could spring into action at a moment's notice.
Is the dandy the green guy?
Yes, he's back here. Koyana is here sitting at the fire.
I don't think, like, any of us, and I am kind of speaking for everybody, the group here, I don't think any of us have it in it to commit violence against you with your children here. Even if we did think that...
Guilty of the crimes of which you speak.
And I'll nod and point at him. It's like, it's not, there's too much. Jeannie will sigh that there's just too much in the world to do that to your children.
You get no argument from them, but Florica points out that Yunoro will be very disappointed to hear that.
So how is it that the triplets came to the wrong conclusion about what happened? Are they in denial? Are they
simply grief-stricken? I mean, their conclusion was they were simply grief-stricken. At one point, Abela must have made this agreement. Please save my son. He's taken a chill. However, if he dies, I do give you permission to harvest his blood for blood magic.
That's a normal form you sign when you get medical care in Ravenloft.
It's a normal form you sign in. Never mind.
In real life, yeah.
By way of offering evidence to support her story, Florica can give you the names of other people amongst the Vistani whose lives were saved with the magic created from the dead infant. That does you no good right now, but...
Right.
What about the names of children you have saved that have not died in your care?
And she's able to give the names of many families, none of which you've...
know any?
No.
Mont cuts to the air with his hand and says, "That's not going to matter to someone whose child has perished."
Is there any way that you could... We're going to go back, like, like Jeannie looks at everybody, like, what is everybody's, like, opinion on their face? Because Jeannie has an opinion, and the opinion is that we're not going to be killing these people.
Evie
Yeah,
doesn't know if she wants to fight, really.
Victor will pop a nice telepathic link with the nobles.
I mean, that's
Obviously,
what
we're
is
not going to kill them.
right? Yeah. So like, Jeannie is gonna say, we're gonna go back to them and like we're going to we're going to tell them that we're not thinking, and what that's going to do is that it's going to leave us stranded here.
Well, hold on. Is there any possibility at all that perhaps you could talk to Yenora in a controlled environment where she won't be able to attack you, and perhaps help her understand what happened now that time has passed?
Florica thinks on that for a moment. She says, I have a better idea. It is known that House Veritas wields powerful magics. Perhaps...
We're not going to kill them either.
No, but perhaps you can weave a magical falsehood that would help her through her grief in a more productive manner.
I'm not sure how the weavers of that would feel about that.
I don't think I could do that.
I don't have any magic that could do something like
I don't
that.
think Ekon will do that.
I mean, I don't think that's an ability we have.
You could probably guess it, maybe.
No, that's not what Gias does.
No.
But no, I don't think like GD just flatly looks at them and says, I blow things up. I don't.
I don't think magic is the right solution to this problem, to be honest.
Florica finds that magic is the solution to many problems. She could not disagree with that assessment more.
It is a, yeah. Well, I find that magic is a, magic is a great solution to all the problems that magic creates.
Cleona, what is your opinion on this? Do you see some sort of resolution here?
You're asking who?
Cleona.
Koyana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gives her a curt response in Vistani, speaking to the couple. They just exchange a glance and then nod to her once. She tells you that she is an outsider here. She is a member of neither of these families. She has nothing to do with this feud.
Okay. I mean,
Fair enough.
like we've been dragged into it, and basically we're going to get left here if we don't side with the other thing. So,
Well,
we
as
don't
to
know
that, once their work here at the Sulphur Springs is done, you are welcome to accompany them on their travels. They could not say when the next time they would pass through Silverbow is, but they can get you there on a long enough journey.
Looking for hiding gloss, though.
They don't know this place.
Like, we have to get there for several reasons. One of them is they did attack our town with a giant bird made of fire. And we have children there.
Perhaps, and Victor glances over the two of them. You said you did a Taraka reading on the way over, yes?
Yes, both Florica and Brisha, her Boba's mother, are skilled in giving Taraka readings.
Maybe we could go back with a token of some sort. Perhaps one of your Taraka cards.
So, Victor, before you mention that, you know that outright asking for it, because Vistana's Taraka deck is a very, very personal item of great magic.
Okay, yeah.
This would be like, Ekon, just break me off part of your holy symbol, like the little magnifying part.
Just give me your holy symbol.
Well, you could tell her that that's what they told you to bring. That might change the math a little.
What if we were to go to them and actually try and help them deal with their grief and get to the point where they could admit to what actually happened?
One of those women looks like she's about to just go attack this place if she doesn't hear what she wants to hear.
No, we definitely need to go back and talk to them.
Yeah, we do need to talk to them.
But yeah, Victor will knowing what Victor knows and how sacrilegious such an act would be, Victor, in the most delicate way that he can, will mention that the caravan or the Vargo, whatever the buggy thing.
The buggy? Yes, we'll go with buggy.
The buggy thing. The buggy thing they have is, filled with the death cards of Taraka decks. And it was mentioned that she would like your death card. This is not what he's actually saying. He's saying this much more
Sure.
diplomatic and
let's make a
careful.
charisma persuasion check at disadvantage.
Or no, you just regular. You got advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
because you still got enhance ability.
So
Yeah.
you roll 1 dice.
My brain's not working.
Whose is?
Regular dice is die, homie.
I usually let that slide.
Well, that's going to be what are we doing? Persuasion.
Yes, persuasion.
That's going to be a 17.
Florica responds, "Are they still making a show of that? That's going to get them killed one day for sure."
It does seem a bit weird. I do agree.
You can say that the request doesn't sit well with any of them. But Koyana, who designed and painted her own Taraka deck, did she do it herself or did she commission Edmont? I don't remember now.
No, she did it herself. She said she wouldn't let me do it.
That's right. You offered and she wouldn't like. Okay.